Robert Plank Show, episode 186, Six-Figure Writing and Virtual Assistant Secrets. How to start and scale your freelancing income to create the lifestyle you want with Laura Pennington. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Robert Plank Show, and we're here today with Laura Pennington, and she is an inner city teacher turned freelance writer. She now teaches others how to build their own sustainable freelance businesses from home on their own terms. Laura is the owner of Six-Figure Writing Secrets and Your Way to VA. So Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
I am thrilled that you are here. So can you tell us about what it is that you do, and you mentioned there's like the six-figure writing secrets and Your Way to VA. So I'm really curious about everything that you're working on these days.
Sure. So I used to be a seventh grade history and geography teacher, and I totally burned out doing it. I had spent all of my life preparing for a career in education. I was halfway through my PhD at the time, and then realized that it just wasn't for me. I couldn't handle doing the 16, 18-hour days and dealing with the bureaucracy and all of the, confusion and lack of resources in the public school system. So I started pursuing other opportunities to make money on the side and never really thought that it would turn into a full-time career, but was really surprised when it did. So becoming a freelance writer and a virtual assistant and project manager allowed me to ultimately leave my day job. And so I've been working full-time for myself since the summer of 2013. And I've had so many friends and colleagues in my world who saw my story and were really inspired by it. And a lot of them are in the same place that I was at. They're either not fulfilled by their job, or I have a lot of friends who are just becoming moms for the first time and realizing how hard it is to juggle motherhood and career. And they would ask me, how can I do what you do? And so I started to create courses and tools and materials to help people who want to have some kind of an online or freelance career, but they don't know where to start.
Awesome, and I can totally relate to a lot of what you said there, and especially like I'm still pretty young. I'm maybe 32 years old or so, and when I was like in my early 20s, I wanted to do the building the business stuff, the freelance stuff. And my parents said, well, you have to, finish college. And I did. And for a while, there was that sort of trying to transition and trying to juggle like one time consuming thing and some other time consuming thing. And then as far as the teaching aspect, like I dated a teacher for a few months, and I think she taught eighth grade, and it just, the way it was described to me, it sounded like the worst possible thing. Because at least if you were dealing with, at least if you were like a college professor, then your credentials could be put to like a really good use. And even if you were like teaching the young kids, that would be an easy job. But it sounded like teaching the almost high school or the high school kids was just the easiest way to get burned out. So I could totally relate to a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, that's completely true. I was teaching in Baltimore City, and the poverty rate there is very high. The students, many of them are very far behind. Their school system just doesn't have the resources. I was the only social studies teacher in the whole middle school. They couldn't afford a sixth grade or an eighth grade teacher. So the principal basically said to me, teach these kids whatever you think they need to know before high school in terms of civics and geography and history. And it was just totally chaotic. I thought choosing middle school would be better than high school, but boy, 35 12-year-olds in a room at the same time, for 6 hours straight, it was absolutely exhausting.
Oh no. And what I'm hearing about that is that it sounds like a lot of people out there, including yourself, like they have this they have this passion, right? They want to, help people, and they want to teach things, but then who knows about that whole job security thing, and it might be that people might think that they're stuck in this job, but who knows if they want to still be caught in it 5-10 years down the line, and who knows how it will change, or who knows whatever kind of funding or lack of will happen, or whatever kind of rules happen. And so I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, what are your thoughts on people sort of using this freelance thing to make their dreams happen, and to make sure that the freelancing makes sure that they're not giving up on their dreams, if that makes sense?
Absolutely. So the first thing is just that the way that careers look for our generation, it's so different than even our parents' generation, right? Like, gone are the days where you're going to work at the same company for 30 years and have a pension when you retire. I mean, we don't even know at this point if we'll have Social Security and Medicare when we retire. So there's a lot fewer safety nets today than there's ever been before. And I think going the traditional employment route, I mean, that's what you're taught to do in college. You're being prepared to work a 9 to 5 in the vast majority of cases, but it's really not for everyone. And I knew going into college that wasn't going to be the right fit for me, but I tried to force myself into that mold anyways, and just realize that, that kind of office lifestyle, it doesn't really reward efficiency. One of the jobs that I had before being a teacher, I worked in an insurance agency, and I'd frequently be done by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I just have to sit there until 5 because that's how it worked. And it was like, well, what is the point of me doing my work efficiently and effectively? So part of the reason that I think freelancing is so amazing is because you can make it a full-time career, but it can also be part-time. So for the first year that I was freelancing, I got started in 2012. I was doing it at night. I was doing it on the weekends. I was completely doing it part-time. I had other responsibilities. And for me, it was just a great way to make extra money and to be doing something that aligned with my passions more. But it grew so quickly that I realized, hey, I might actually be able to make a living doing this and not just have to have a day job for the purposes of security. So if you're out there and you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or becoming a freelancer, it's absolutely possible to start with one contract and then sort of grow your business or scale it back depending on your individual needs and your capacity at the time.
And I'm super curious to dive into that part of it, like the how to transition from one to the other and how much of the fire hose to turn on. Because I'm looking at different people talking about you, and I see that Business Insider ran an article about you, and I see that you have a profile on Upwork, and I mean some of the stuff you have on there is pretty crazy. Like you have some like you're doing like legal blogging, and for some of these jobs you've made thousands of dollars. And so I mean, what are your thoughts on like almost the stereotype or the trap that a lot of freelancers fall into, where they end up overworked and missing deadlines and almost working for minimum wage? I mean, do you see people doing that, people who kind of transition into freelancing in the wrong way?
Yes, a number of my clients that I work with one-on-one are stuck at what I call the burnout level. So they're making between $20,000 and $30,000 a year doing some type of freelance work, but they can't seem to break through that ceiling. And at the same time, they're working 30, 40, even 50 hours a week and beyond and getting really stressed out by it. They're not really feeling fulfilled. And so the way that you build your business and who you choose to work with as clients, those things are really important for how you establish your lifestyle. And I totally overhauled my business after initially building it the wrong way. I tried to basically have a content management company where people would come to me and I would outsource the work to begin with. And I realized, wow, I really hate management. I don't like being responsible for other people. I don't like having to explain why so and so missed a deadline. I mean, all the stress would land on me. So I overhauled my business and said, I'm only working with premium clients who fit my ideal client avatar, who are easy to work with. And even when someone comes to me with a really lucrative project and it sounds great, if any red flags are triggered during our initial conversation on the phone, I decline that project. And it has allowed me to build a business that works for me. So it's really important to be conscious of who you choose to work with. It's one of the greatest opportunities about being a freelancer. Gone are the days when you work for somebody else and the customer is always right. In the freelance world, the customer is not always right. And you have a choice, even when someone desperately wants to work with you, to say, I'm sorry, this just isn't a fit for me. I wish you luck.
And that makes a lot of sense. And so by you having that sort of mindset of, if it's not the right fit, then you can sort of cut them loose and move on, and there are other fish in the sea and all that sort of stuff. And so, are there like any specific red flags that you're looking for? Like, are there like a series of like, I don't know, like a checklist or some questions in your head of when you are first talking to this person, or is it just a matter of if something comes up, it comes up?
Well, there are two parts to this process. And the first is you should always be looking to work with your ideal client. And when you first start out, this isn't always easy. You might not know what road you want to go down. Most of my clients are attorneys and law firms. The vast majority of them are male between the ages of 30 and about 55. And that just, I kept seeing that pattern in my business and realized, this is the type of person I really like to work with. I really understand their pain points and their challenges and why they're in the process of hiring a writer. And so even if someone's a little bit, outside of that, and I still feel like it would be a good fit, will consider working with them. But there's also personality aspects that are red flags. So for me, I don't like somebody who's going to email me 5, 10 times a day asking about the status of a project. You should trust me that if I say you'll get this by the deadline, you'll have it by the deadline. Most of my clients have been with me for 2 years or longer. So trust that I get it done and hold up my end of the deal. And anyone who I always stay away from projects where they say, we need 10 rounds of revisions. Like, there's never any reason why that should be necessary. I'm not going to spend my time editing your document 10 times after I've already edited it and sent it in myself. And just, sometimes personality things, if a person is a little bit, they seem at all difficult to deal with, that's just an opportunity to immediately decline and move on, because life is too short. And if you're working with the right kinds of clients, you should only have a little bit of room in your schedule anyway. So sort of let someone into your little world. You don't want it to be the wrong person.
And that makes a lot of sense, and that kind of has me thinking back to, because I used to do computer programming freelance work. Like, I would make web apps and things like that, and I can relate to that, where what would start off as a small job would kind of grow and grow, and then there'd be all these revisions, and I would end up doing all these extra things and not getting paid for it. So I kind of, in my head, I felt my hourly rate sort of drop and drop and drop, I think that, at least for me, it was just a matter of, I kind of let one thing slide and let something else slide, and then next thing I knew, there was that kind of situation where they were emailing me every hour, just because I let it go the first few times, and then that became okay. And so, if someone was looking to get to that point where you overhauled your business, you figured out the avatar of your ideal client, and then you sort of cleaned house a little bit, I mean, how does someone get to that point? Because if someone's like just starting out and they're looking to do any kind of like content writing or something, they get an Upwork account. I mean, how do they get up to that point, from like getting that first job and getting multiple jobs? Like, how do they grow that?
I would say there's two major obstacles having any kind of a freelance business. And the first one comes pretty early on. It's your first client ever, because once you get that first client, it's like all these doors begin to open and these possibilities become available to you. And then the next hurdle is really making this be a full-time venture. And that one's a little bit more difficult to get to. So I realized pretty early on, if I have a bunch of one-off clients who come to me for one project and then I never hear from them again, I'm going to spend half the month marketing to drum up work from these brand new people who I don't know. So I said, I need to focus on a kind of content that people need all the time. So most of what I do is search engine optimization blog writing. Search engines love fresh content. People understand that they need to have social media channels and a blog that's regularly updated. So that allowed me to lock my clients in on retainer and say, I will provide you 12, 16, or 20 blog posts every month. And then I know where my money is coming from. So that was the point at which I was able to say, I can make this be a full-time living, because I have already 3, 4, 5 clients on retainer that are going to order from me every single month. So I do still accept projects if it's a one-off job, but it's a really good fit for me. But being able to project my income for the month is so amazing as a freelancer. And the way that you get there is by delivering an amazing experience for your clients. Go above and beyond. Don't shortchange yourself, but give them a deadline that is 1 or 2 days later than you will actually get it done, so that it looks like you're delivering early. Make the process seamless for them. Make sure you've double and triple checked your materials before you sent it, because once someone finds a good freelancer, they have no reason to go somewhere else. And not only will they consider ordering more work from you, but they will refer their friends to you too. So very soon you'll have a full calendar of people who want to work with you, who are all like those ideal clients you had to begin with. So it's a snowball effect.
Awesome. And from what I'm hearing from you was that, because you niched this down, as far as there was the writing blog posts that are SEO optimized, but then also I'm hearing a lot of you did a lot of the legal writing. So this was a way for you to differentiate from all the other masses out there and charge more than someone would just for some generic content writing.
Yes, choosing a niche along with your ideal client avatar is super important. Now, you can be a generalist and write about anything. There are a lot of people who do that and they do it well. But I figured if I specialize in only one or two types of writing, so I focused on legal writing and then writing for the insurance industry because those were the things I had the strongest background in, combined with search engine optimization. So doing that allowed me to become more and more of an expert in their world. So now I am looped into those industries. So when there's a new class action lawsuit about a defective medical device, I know about it even before my clients do sometimes. And I understand the lingo. I know how to read the materials they send to me, and I know what their audience is looking for. So ultimately, that benefits you as the freelancer and the client because they're getting to tap in to someone who's really talented and understands the unique aspects of their industry. And it allows you to command a higher rate because when you really focus in on something, people who want to hire an expert will choose to hire somebody who is a specialist in that area rather than a generalist who says, oh, yeah, I can do that, but I only do it 5% of the time, right? I spend 20 or 30 hours a week reading about lawsuits and medical malpractice and personal injury. So when somebody comes to me to order content, they're getting the benefit of all of those hours stacked on top of each other. They know that I know what I'm talking about.
Right, and that makes a lot of sense. And so sort of along those lines. So I'm hearing that. So you chose a niche and you're a specialist and you keep up to date on all this cool stuff and you deliver an amazing experience by delivering early and delivering really good quality stuff. But have you come across any difficulties, especially early on, with the competitors on these freelance sort of writing job sites?
Originally, that is how I got my start was competing with other people on these bidding sites, and I could not figure out why I was losing to these other people. I would see the same people again and again landing these contracts, and so I spent one day and I just sat down and looked at all of their profiles. I looked at the writing samples on their website and I figured out, okay, what can I do that's better than them? So some of them were promising like 24-hour delivery. And I didn't feel like I wanted to offer that. So I said, all right, I'm not going to make that be my special aspect. But what I can do is I've read their samples and I can write better than they can. So I'm going to focus in on telling my clients that they can hire someone to get it done right the first time and that quality is more important than somebody turning it around quickly. And so you can always figure out how to differentiate yourself from other people. And one of the most important things that I am constantly drilling to my students: submitting for work on a job site is slightly different from submitting via a cold pitch or a networking event or a public speaking opportunity. You have to stand out from the crowd, but far too many people make the mistake of only talking about themselves. They send in a pitch that's clearly cut and paste, I'm so amazing, you should hire me, look at me, I'm fabulous. And you're not making any kind of a connection with that client. So when you do a pitch like that, it's really important to read what the client has put down there for you. What are they experiencing right now? Why are they on this site? And how can you appeal to that? So, for example, sometimes someone will say, I just hired someone to do this project and they did it all wrong. I'm, totally frustrated. So then you reply to that by talking about your process. How are you going to get to know their needs? How are you going to give them the opportunity to revise things as you go? Speak to those pain points directly so that you can convince them that you're the right choice.
And I like all of that. And what I'm hearing from a lot of that is that it's important to just kind of go through and view whatever marketplace you're in as a buyer, and to kind of just go through and see what's holding up everyone else who's looking to hire a freelance writer, and kind of looking at it just to get ideas about should I add this feature or should I not, or where are people unhappy and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can learn a lot about what the person is looking for. There's little clues either on their website or different information that they post in the request for proposals. If someone tells you, oh, we're looking to hire someone to do our blogs, go look at their blog. give them a critique when you respond. Oh, hey, I noticed that you guys haven't posted in 3 weeks. It's really important to be blogging consistently. Don't worry, I can help you with that. Always you want to talk about yourself, but in a way that connects with what they need. So don't just send them the laundry list of your resume and why you're so awesome. Tell them how that actually translates to an outcome for the client.
That makes sense, and it almost sounds like, I mean, it is making a job application in a lot of ways, and it's like you're customizing what you're saying based on that client, as opposed to just blasting out the same exact copy and paste to hundreds of people.
Yes, you can use a generic template, with different materials that you may want to include, but when you add it into the actual proposal, tweak it a little bit, add a little bit of identifying information that shows that you're interested in this client and that you spent the time doing a little bit of research about them too.
Right, right. I mean, I totally agree with that, and it makes a lot of sense. And so, so can you kind of, so since we've explained all this stuff, can you sort of explain like what are the steps that you took from getting from there to here? I mean, I know that we talked about so there's like the job sites, there's the whole bidding aspect, there was you went through the overhaul process to figure out what kind of client you wanted and what kind of specialty you wanted to be in, and you got those recurring clients. So I mean, is there an easy sort of, maybe just off the top of your head, like a quick like 5 or 6 step process someone could go through from, if they say I want to try this freelancing thing out, to go from that to where you are?
Sure. So the first thing I would say that anyone should do is evaluate their own experiences. A lot of people get hung up on this, oh, I need to go get an MFA in something to be a graphic designer, or I need to be, have a degree in software development to be a web developer. That's not necessarily true. And you don't need to have been paid to create materials in the past in order to get paid to do it now. So you may not think that you have the experience, but you probably do. When I work with a lot of virtual assistants and they'll say, well, I've never done any work online. And I would say, well, I'm sure you've worked in an office before, right? And you did data entry and you did research and you fielded phone calls and you dealt with customer service. Those skills, it might not have been in a VA position, but you've done all this before. So think about the background you already have, and that will help point you in the right direction to choose a freelancing niche for yourself. The second thing you need to do is to create work samples, some kind of sample that shows what you're talking about. A graphic designer might put together a portfolio of logos. A freelance writer would have one white paper example or 3 blog examples. These aren't things you need to have been paid to create. I used 3 blog samples that I made up on the fly to land my first several dozen jobs. So don't stress about it, but make sure they're really good, because that's your calling card, and that can trump experience. Quality can trump experience and someone else's prices if you present it in the right way. The next step I would say is to come up with a marketing plan. Job boards are something I frequently recommend to new freelancers because it allows you to get your feet wet. If you have this dream that you're going to go and become a freelance writer and then you work for one client and realize you hate it, it's much better to do it when it's just one job. Figure that out when it's just one job, as opposed to committing to working with someone on a 6-month contract and realizing you hate it. So job boards are a great place to find fast work, to get your feet wet, to help you figure out your pricing, because you might think, well, this seems like a fair rate, and then find out that it takes you 3 times as long to actually complete it. And suddenly that rate isn't so fair anymore. So it's a great way to learn your mistakes and learn what you want to do and not do. I realized pretty quickly that legal blogging was something I was good at. It was something I was interested in, and that's why I chose to go that route. And then the next step is the most important one, and it's something you will always do as a freelancer, whether you're established or not, and that is marketing. How are you actually going to get in front of people? You might continue to use job boards, but are you going to use cold calls? Are you going to join your local chamber of commerce and go talk to people about what you do? Are you going to go to trade shows, present at conferences? What is going to be the plan where you connect with people? And then once you've done this enough, marketing will become less and less important, because you will have referrals from your existing clients and you will have, hopefully, ongoing work from the clients you already have. But those are really, the only things that you need to do to get started. And so many people get hung up on the step of creating their samples. They just, can't figure out how to, move forward and stop being stuck in that point, and you're probably overthinking it, right? Go find somebody else who does what you do, look at their samples and create something similar. I mean, you're not going to copy what they did, but say, you want to be like somebody who's an ebook writer. Go purchase their ebook, go see how they laid it out, about how many words is it, and think of a complementary topic for you that you could write about and create your own sample.
And I like that last part the best. And I think that that's such an important skill, I mean, with life in general, but especially in this whole entrepreneurial world, is that ability to look at other people who have blazed the trail before you, not with the intention of copying them exactly, but sort of adapting it into whatever it is that you want to create. And I mean, it's helped me so much just as far as looking at, like you said, like looking at someone else's writing sample so that I now have somewhat of a picture in my head of what I want to create, sort of in the same way of, well, if someone was getting into graphic design, we'll look at the sample logo graphics they made, not to copy them, but just to kind of see what that finished result is, to, look at whatever web page is already created so that I know what it is that I'm building towards, as opposed to just sort of flying blind and winging it. And so just to make sure that I have your 4 steps here, so you said that number one is to evaluate your own experiences and like take that inventory of your skills, whether it's, have you done data entry in the past, phone calls, officing stuff, whatever, and it doesn't have to be something that people have been paid for. Step number two is to create those work samples, make those blog posts, the logos, the white paper, whatever, and show that you create some good quality stuff. Number three is the marketing plan, which is to go on those job boards and get those repeat clients and those contracts. And then number four is more of the long-term marketing and figure out where you're going to get your traffic from, the cold calls, chamber of commerce, trade shows, conferences, all that good stuff.
Yeah, that's really all you need to do to have a successful freelance business. And one of the coolest things about it is that you can do this while you're working for somebody else. You can do this while you're in school. You can do this if you're a stay-at-home parent, because it doesn't require a full-time commitment to start. Carve out the time to inventory your skills and to create work samples or to get testimonials from your first couple of clients by offering them a discounted rate, and then really allow that to snowball from there. And every interaction you have with a client, make it be positive, even if they don't end up working with you. I mean, I have clients who originally turned me down, said my quote was too high, it wasn't the right fit. But then I'll get a random email 6 months or 2 years later from someone who contacted them asking for a referral, and that person used my name. So you never know where business is going to come from. So always be professional with people, even if it's not an opportunity now, a door may open down the road. So over, time is really the best thing, because if you're consistently marketing, you will have these open channels where leads are coming to you.
Right, and I like that attitude that the things that you do now might not pay off right away, but it might pay off in 6 months or 12 months, and it might just be from something small where you were polite and professional as opposed to burning the bridge, and then that paid off later. And so, sort of along those lines, when you think back about your own journey and you help other people to get their own freelancing businesses started, I mean, do you see a common mistake happening over and over again?
Yes, I think that in a very confident space, no matter what kind of freelancer you are, especially when you're first getting started, it's very tempting to take every job that's offered to you. It's very tempting to stick with the rates that you set out when you first open your business. And it's reasonable to raise your rates. Your clients should expect that every 6 months or every year, that, due to increased demand and all the expertise you've garnered over that previous period of time, your rates are going to go up. So one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is they burn out because they're stuck at these bottom of the barrel rates. They're convinced they can't make any more. And it's all about a mindset shift to start thinking that you do deserve to be paid what you're worth. You do deserve to have clients who you enjoy working with. And it's something that I think a lot of freelancers can work on, is making that change so that you feel comfortable. It's like asking for a raise. It's something that your clients should expect. Many of them are familiar with it. So don't be scared to ask for an increase in rates. And that's also your time to evaluate your client base too. Who's working for you and who's not? Like, who's driving you crazy? If it's time to increase your rates, Sometimes, you can just phase people out naturally. You can say, hey, my rates have increased. And then there's a chance that the difficult people don't want to pay the new rates anyway. So you just kind of, let them go off into the sunset. Now you have room for one more amazing client on your roster.
Awesome. And the way that you're describing this, I mean, it makes a couple of things spring to mind. And one is that people aren't alone in this freelancing thing. I mean, they might think that they are because they're branching out from, I guess, what you might call like the traditional or the old-fashioned lifestyle, like you mentioned at the beginning of this call, where a lot of our parents and grandparents sort of just maybe got a job at age 18 at the I don't know at the general store or the gift shop or whatever and just work that to the end. And now with things being so uncertain, we might have to switch gears a little bit. And so people out there who might be leaving their office job or their teaching job or whatever, they're kind of going out in this new unknown territory. But what it sounds like is that the good news is that lots of other people are on the same path. And then as you just are describing these different scenarios that have come up and struggles in your own business, it sounds like at least the business side of it, like the mechanical side of it, is very like established, and everyone has had these problems before as far as taking on too many jobs or not raising their rates. So I think that that's very reassuring in that yes, becoming a freelancer and striking out on your own is kind of a scary unknown thing, but a lot of people have done it. It's not something that was just invented yesterday. People are doing it all over the place. And so, sort of along those lines, where it's great for people to not be alone and to be in this with other people and to listen to someone who has done it before. So you have courses about this, right? You have like the six-figure writing secrets and your way to VA. Is that correct?
Yeah, so what I do now is I help people who want to teach themselves how to do this and maybe get some feedback from somebody who has been there before. So sometimes there's crossover between the two. Sometimes somebody wants to become a virtual assistant and a writer, but I do have different tracks that allow people to go through a course, actually get some feedback from me. Like in the writing course, I give you feedback on your writing samples. I give you feedback on your pitch for Upwork. I give you feedback on the resume that you're going to use and the marketing plan that you're going to put together. And then both those courses also get bundled in with my most popular course, which is all about killing it on Upwork. I've used Upwork and that site's predecessor, Elance, to make hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point. So it's a great way to get your feet wet, as I mentioned earlier. Great way to start marketing and take away some of the fear to put you in a place of confidence. So I also have a free course about how to determine your freelance writing niche. So if you're totally new to this, have never done it before, and you don't even know where to get started, that is a great place to begin because it is a course that sort of walks you through thinking about the experience that you have, the passion that you have, the knowledge that you've accumulated over your life, and how that can translate to a freelance writing career.
Awesome. So where is that free course?
So all of my courses are on laurapennington.teachable.com, and then you can get more information about me on either one of my sites. Sixfigurewritingsecrets.com, all spelled out, is the site where I do a lot of my writing specific tools, tips, and tricks. And then Your Way to VA, all spelled out, is specifically for people who are thinking about starting a career as a virtual assistant.
Cool. So there's an option for everyone depending on what it is that they want. They can go to yourwaytova.com to find out about the virtual assistant stuff, six-figure writing secrets to get the writing stuff, and then laurapennington.teachable.com to grab your courses. And so I'm really glad that you came on the show today, Laura, because I know that stereotypically with this whole freelancing thing, I think a lot of people think that it's a lot of work and low pay, but it sounds like as far as what you've built, there's a little bit of the getting started, picking up speed, the growing pains, but the way that you laid it out is that people can just try it out, or they can quit any time, or they can scale based on how much time and energy they have. And I just really appreciated the way that you talked about how you were able to scale it and take it to this thing where now it sounds like you really can live your life on your own terms and work when you want and where you want and make the amount of money you want. So I really appreciate you sharing all that with us, and thanks for stopping by the show today.
Thanks so much. It was my pleasure.
Have you had a chance to rate and review the show yet? If not, go right now to robertplank.com/iTunes, click the View in iTunes button, and click the Ratings tab. We would really appreciate a 5-star rating or whatever you think is fair, plus a quick 1-sentence review to tell us how we're doing. Thank you very much and have a